Let's see what's happening here. Okay, it was working. Okay, we're live on all 5 platforms. Welcome everybody on the live and the replay. There's just a few people in the house, so we're going to play our little 1 minute and 20-second intro and be right back with the Soulogy scientist, Charan. We'll be right back. So as we start the show, it's 11:11 on my clock, which is a good sign. We're here with the Soulogy scientist, Charan, Surdhar, and we're going to play a game today. How do we realign and upgrade our DNA? Because this is what you do, right?
I do indeed, and everyone does. They just don't know.
Yeah. So are you saying that well, let's see. So at the literal level, we are conscious creators, and we are creators of our own experience to include our vehicle, and that as unconscious creators, we were unconsciously altering our DNA, and now we can consciously alter our DNA and bring it into alignment.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I don't know if I can say it better than that.
Good. You can. Go ahead.
What I can say is that, our thoughts create our reality, and we've known that.
Yeah.
But how do we actually align our mind, body, and spirit to a place where we actually can create from a place of unison with the universe, rather than from being separate?
Yeah.
Up till now, that's how we've been creating, from a place of separateness. And now it's time to create from a place of connectedness.
That's a very good point. And like, first, if we're not even connective, or let's say acting in unison in our own field, which we now know, of course we know is multidimensional, but now we're starting to discover is multifaceted at the human level, right? Like, you can't leave any part of it out. So if we can't do it there, we won't be able to do it outside of ourselves. But you're absolutely right. I mean, oneness is oneness. Our whole body acts in unison by its original design, doesn't it?
It does. Our cells, I always say this to people, your DNA is listening. Yeah. And, up till now, you may have had thoughts like, I don't like myself. I don't like what's going on. I don't like, this, or, I wish this was different or that was different. That's going to be like a tug of war inside, in the sense that there's a polarity. There's this wanting something, but there's feeling the negative. Our job is really to come to neutrality. And by that, I don't mean to ignore what's going on. I don't mean that we don't take action. But we actually come to a place of neutrality where we actually are then centered in our beingness. Yeah. And that's where we're connected. I have to tell you this story. I think everyone will really enjoy this. So I was reading this book. I forget the name of it now. And there was a story in there about the rainmaker. And this rainmaker was basically, there was a village that needed rain. And so they were calling on different rainmakers to come in and create the rain. And none of them were able to make the rain happen. So then eventually they called on this one rainmaker, and he comes and he sets up a tent outside the village. And he doesn't even come into the village. He just sets it up outside the village. And as he sets it up, he goes and sits in there. And they don't see him for 4 days. And he sits there day after day. And they're all wondering what he's doing. Like, why are they even paying him to do anything? Because all he's doing is sitting in his tent. And on the 4th day, it rained. And he came out and they said, what did you do? Like, you didn't go and light a fire and do some, chanting or anything like that. The rain came. He said, what I did was nothing. I recognized the disharmony in the village, and I went internal and created harmony within myself for the disharmony that was in my field. And now the rain came. And it's such a beautiful story for me. I always love telling that story because that's really how it is. Yeah. With everything that's going on, it is about how we can get connected back to ourselves, learn how to navigate our body, mind, and spirit so that we can then create harmony on the outside.
That's a great story. And it's a great story because A, that's how you bring the rain, and B, it's got nothing to do with anyone outside of you. I mean, the rainmaker recognized that the village was in disharmony, but what could he do to affect those people? Because you know how it goes. If we start telling people, you're not in disharmony, some might say, okay, what do we do? And the others will say, what are you talking about? So he did what's the only thing we can do? Go inside ourselves, raise our frequency, bring it into balance or alignment, and then allow the external world to meet us there. Mm-hmm. Because either it's going to meet us there or we're going to be pushed into a higher frequency field or something, because like begets like. It's interesting too. I saw this post this morning. I just got up and I was eating a sandwich I made for breakfast and having some coffee, and I just opened my phone and I saw this pretty prominent person put up a small meme that talked about, and I've seen a lot of them, so it's not about this person, and it's basically saying, hey, my light shines so well that if anyone says anything bad about me, they're just jealous. And I thought, wait a minute, it's not about them. Like, it's about, why are you saying that? And I'm not picking on this person. What I'm trying to say is, in our own internal dialogue, if we, like you talked about at the beginning, there has to be this connectivity. And if that connectivity is not there, then the environment that we share, stemming from the environment within myself, is going to be imbalanced. And I think we've got enough information out here now that that we can actually make some great strides, and I think the craziest thing about it, Charan, to me, is that it's so simple. You would think it's got to be some type of we got to go up to the top of Mount Everest and meditate for 6 days. Or, I had a friend talk to me yesterday about going into fasting, that she'd gotten that message, which we've got to honor the messages we get. But it's really not that. It's nothing more than a conscious, holding yourself accountable consciousness effort that it literally is not push a button and it's done. It's a moment by moment by moment thing.
Yes, absolutely. And, like you said, our DNA is, I said to you earlier, is always listening. And not only that, but it's actually a portal that is, connecting us to divinity. And if we can make a choice in every moment to be either connected or disconnected, we are connecting to divinity, and then the DNA will respond to that. Otherwise, it's connecting to it's disconnected, and it's more connected to our traumas, and that creates, or our ancestral traumas, And you could go searching for all of these traumas. You could go looking to find what these are and work on them till you're blue in the face. I've done it myself. I've been there, done it.
Mhm.
And now, like you say, it is simple. And thank God it's simple.
Yeah.
Thank goodness it's simple.
It's so simple. It's almost can't be true. But I guess it's the reason I say that is because and so many of us, most all of us, have had divine episodes and visitation these otherworldly, seemingly otherworldly connection to the universe that let us know this is bigger than this, right? And then it comes down to what? A very human, personally responsible, personally conscious. There's no one else, and this is our contribution. There is truly an alignment between service to self and service to others and to humanity, right? I mean, there really is. It's all the same thing. I can breathe, I can think, I can speak, and I can act, and I can equally serve those three things. And that's fascinating. Now you're telling me about this DNA thing being a portal, though, and I'm just having this thought in my head. I wonder if where the physical meets the non-physical, and you're scientific,
Yes.
but I wonder if where that meets is the DNA, and that each time we bring a strand of DNA into alignment, it is a portal to Sirius or to dragon energy or to whatever that section of the Akashic Library is. You know what I mean? What do you think?
I would say it's connected to everything.
Yeah.
This is why we can access different things. But my thing is always just go straight to divinity. Yeah. Because as soon as we go there, we're connected to all that is. And that's where we get all our answers. The mind would like to think and divide that and make it that we can connect with this or we can connect with that. And it's fine, if people do that, that's absolutely fine. But we have to be very cautious. Yeah. Because are we getting caught in that ego place of oh, let me go and look at this. Can I go and get something? Can I go and do something? This is not about getting anymore. Yeah. It's about just being able to access that place of divinity that's within us. And I guess it's not only just the DNA, it's if we go down from atom to electrons and protons and neutrons, we've just got energy. And, science shows that is where the vacuum field or God energy or source or universal life force energy is. And that's where there's enough energy in that to actually light up a whole city, or more. And when we can access that with this moment to moment to moment, that's where the power is. We can go anywhere, we can do anything.
That's a really good point you made about bringing the infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, down to a singularity.
Yes.
Right? Because if we are attaching or identifying or breaking it apart, breaking it down, like you were saying, to angelics and galactics and this section and that section, we're actually duplicating the separation that we're doing here. It's just at a different level, And I guess we have to do this in phases. And the first thing we got to do is bring that unity, that oneness to our physical experience.
Yes.
But this is thought provoking to me because to me, everything happens in the energetic field first. We can create something in the energetic field and then it will eventually manifest in the physical plane, right? So if we took oneness from the top down and really applied it, it would probably take care of itself in the physical experience.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Because, when there's something called the downward causation model, which is really that we've got the physical body, we've got different bodies, and then we've got super consciousness and the bliss body, And so when we are moment to moment, when we're in that place, moment to moment, we're actually accessing this place of divinity. And as we do that, we've aligned everything there, and that's where the quantum shifts can happen. And so what we try to do on a physical level to get to be the bliss body is going to be harder, which is where we've been doing things up till now, I believe. Maybe, but if we do it the other way around, which is the downward causation, that's where the quantum shifts happen.
Wow.
Like things can change so quickly.
Yeah. And I think that's happening too. I mean, as much distraction and distortion that's in the world, there's a lot of individual people making a move. They're busting a move. They're actually alchemizing, transforming,
Yeah.
and you don't see it really. You don't see it obviously you don't see it in the mainstream media. You don't see it in the alt news. You have, I think, in the light worker community, which would be like light worker, conspiracy, disclosure, kind of throw those all into one. You kind of have some out with the old, in with the new going on. Like there's things that served us to a certain point, and now there's like this new energy, which really seems to be in the story of individuals. I mean, their individual life transformations that are now affecting their field. Let's say the non-physical aspects are the consequences of their transformation. Their conscious transformation is starting to show up in their lives, like with abundance, or these pot of golds they catch in the middle of the air. There's just some miraculous things happening. Are you seeing any of that?
No, I haven't heard of any of that.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like normal people. Some more spectacular stuff, like people curing themselves of cancer or major situations. I mean, like overnight, like they don't make any sense. The doctors don't know what to think about it. I saw an article the other day that the human body itself, and maybe that's a collective representation of what I'm talking about, is grown in another organ. It came out of one of the medical associations. And what I'm really talking about are these individual stories and people packing their stuff and moving across the world together. They're just like fantasies. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because of the circle that I'm in and the work that I do, but I'm exposed to a lot of them. Yesterday we had a kid, 31-year-old lady, beautiful lady from Victoria, Australia. Mm-hmm. She has a 4-year-old son. She's a single mom. And since he's 2.5 years old, he's telling her, the blue people with the lion's faces, come and get me at night, and they take me through the wall. Then we go for a ride in the spaceship. Mm-hmm. And when is my sister coming? Why are you waiting so long? I mean, there's these stories that are being documented that, as they come true, will be irrefutable, which defies conventional wisdom.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I can speak on a personal level, and what I've seen people around me, experience as they do this, like, moment to moment. Yeah. Simple day-to-day things can start shifting so quickly. Like someone having a debt of God knows how many $1,000, and then next getting a letter saying, "Oh, you only owe $1."
Yeah.
It just things like that. Changing, like you say, also health stuff changing, all of this. And we're all, I think, in such a beautiful place to actually start receiving things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. And I guess that kind of sums it up. It's like the impossible is the possible. And because of what you're talking about and what your passion and your focus is with the DNA, is if they are portals, they're portals. We are a portal. I mean, beyond the physical. So I guess what I'm saying is to start to see things that we might consider available and possible in dimension or in dream state are now occurring in the physical plane. And to me, that's very, very exciting. because I've seen evidence of it, not just subtle evidence and, oh, well, maybe, but also, pictures and stuff like that. I mean, it's coming.
Yeah, that's amazing. Really amazing. And, more is to come. More is
I
to
know.
come.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's interesting, though, is to see it's like a parallel. So you have this distortion and distraction that's accelerating, but at the same time, you have this thing that we're trying to define and give a name to and talk about, the ramifications of aligning DNA and talking to your DNA consciously, and they're running side by side. So it's like as one gets stronger, the other one gets stronger. It's almost going like that. It's almost going like that.
It is, I would agree. Because what you focus on, if you continue to think of yourself as a victim, and that everything that's happening on the planet right now, it's like, oh, woe is me. And of course, it's not great what's happening, and all of that. But we could look at it from two perspectives, and that's another whole story. But the thing is, if we choose to look at it from being a thing that's happening disconnected from ourselves, then we will continue to witness that. But if we connect with ourselves moment to moment, then we'll have that where all the miraculous and all of that begins to show up. So much so that I know you'd agree with me that it feels like it's two different timelines.
Yeah.
That what you put your focus on, you're going to get. And I have to say personally, I mean, the other one is very, very strong. Yeah. It is strong, because we're exposed to so much. But at the same time, this one is, in its own way, very subtle, very, but very powerful, and not like a loud roar like this one is, but a very gentle hum, if I like to call it that, that we can become present to.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because that really, if you look at it like people, right? And one's very, very loud, like a bully loud, like, over gregarious, and the other one's just that quiet, subtle, like the turtle in the hair, And to me, that subtle, quiet, confident, nurturing, foundational part is, to me, like the goddess energy that we've been suppressing, where the other one is the distorted masculine energy, both having been imprinted by the patriarchal, let's just say that, because it's really not a male-female thing, but it's that loudness, that brashness, that, I got to be tough, in your face, but it's that quiet, subtle cadence of the mother that's slowly rising. Women, and again, the feminine energy this year has been very deliberately, steadily expanding. It's primarily to me anyway, it looks primarily in the female incarnates, but it's really in all of us. But I'm starting to see women stepping up all over the place. And it is just like you said, it's not like a real loud, like a shotgun. It's just like a steady, deliberate, almost overly apprehensive, I don't want to do this, but I know I've got to. And that seems to be kind of going away, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. We need it.
I definitely can resonate with that. And that's something that I feel I'm more called to just step up. More than I've ever done before. So I definitely resonate with that.
Yeah. And the interesting thing to me too is on top of that, because it's definitely, like I went through 3 shows yesterday, now 4 in a row. But these 3 shows yesterday, all 3 women, different ages, different stories, but the power of their message was, I mean, I thought I was going to vomit when I got off the last show. I went and sat down. I thought, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to get sick again. It was a powerful reception of energy for me. And then on top of that, now 2 of the 3, well, I guess all 3 are mothers. The first one has a child that's not even a year old, and the third one had a child, was the one I was telling you about, that's 4 years old. And so then on top of that, you've got this energy of these children coming into the world that have a higher frequency. They're communicating with their parents telepathically. They're making their presence known, and I can't even begin to believe or try to understand and conceive what they're going to be like in 4 or 5 years, and what effect they're going to have on the world without verbalization and normal instruction and our normal patterns of learning, just by their frequency.
I don't know if you've also noticed, Todd, that there's also an awareness of an awakening of more love. And I don't mean like a masculine, feminine relationship kind of love. It feels more like something that's universal, sort of that connected love feeling.
Yes.
That's opening up in a very, very big way.
Yeah.
For me personally, this last week, that's what's been opening up, and to a certain extent, it even felt painful. Not from a place of, oh my gosh, what is this? But more like, how can I even express this?
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much here that it's like it was a river and now it's an ocean. And how can you actually open? If I was to shower that much love on some person or some people, they'd think, well, she's kind of crazy. Because,
Yeah.
know?
Well, I think you're right. Over the last week to 10 days, there's been in kind of an inexplicable, like you're talking about, an inexplicable activation or anchoring or energetic force available and accessible and being engaged. I've heard a lot of people talk about it on this show in different ways. There's been some talk of, feminine moving up and masculine and things like that. But the one thing that stands out for me, which you seem to have a beat on with your own experience, is this immeasurable force. And it's like it's coming from here. Like, I remember we were coming back from Sedona, and we were in separate cars because a beautiful sister donated a bus to Soulogy. So I was driving that, and it was a 20-hour plus drive. And every now and then, I would get these waves in my heart, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm just like, and of course, the first thing I would think of would be Morgan. I'd go, God, I love her so much. I mean, like, but it wasn't just about her. It was about the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. And even when I would try to encapsulate it into, well, what can I tell her? And it's like, you can't even begin to, you can't say anything. There's nothing you can say. Like, yeah. you can't even begin to describe it. It's a futile effort. There's no way, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's good to hear that you had that too, because it is immense. But I feel like it's kind of settled in now.
Yeah. Well, for now. It's just, I mean, the one thing I don't know anything anymore, but I do. I look at the trend of 2020, and it has been, again, it's one of those things like trying to express that feeling. You can't even explain it. But one thing I do know is it has elevated day after day after day. Relentless in a good way. I mean, it has been, and so I got to believe this last 2.5 months is just going to be bigger than the rest of the year's been, and the rest of the year's been huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah, totally, I agree. And this love that we're talking about, that's something that's our natural way of being, and we've experienced. We tend to look for love in a way that's something we get from outside. But when we start accessing this from the place where what we're talking about, which is our connection with the universe, that is where our DNA is aligned to. And that's where then the inflammation goes down. It's like the quantum shifts that can happen. Yeah. Health can change. Things in our lives can change. There's no more about going and doing something to get something. it really is becoming attuned to your own inner being,
Yeah.
where love is an only expression.
Yeah. Yes. And I think too, like that, whatever's happening, I mean, like we get caught, we get caught up. And of course I do this every day. I don't even know what my job's going to be once we get past a certain point, because I don't think there'll be any talking. But the thing is, we talk about these things and we do try to figure it out. And I do think we have some pure intention involved and a natural curiosity and innocence, like a child, which is part of our natural nature. But at the same time, this thing's going down. Like this, it's not about any. It's just going down. I mean, it's a collective occurrence bigger than this earth, and it's, I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's in a sense predestined. I think we can maximize the potential of our experience individually and together, but it's going down. Love is on the comeback, or however you want to put it, or we're returning to one central point or something, because it's just not going to be stopped. I don't see, and I think at some point, all of this distortion and distraction on the global stage, and all these issues and quarantines and masks and debate, and I think we're just gonna start laughing about it, because our consciousness will get to a point where it sees it for what it is.
Or we move along that timeline and this begins to dissolve.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
And so that we're not even judging anything anyway. And we're just bringing more and more of the other.
And that's a big deal, the judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I saw in that post today, when the person said, if your lights, bothers people and they make a bad comment towards you, they're just jealous. But as soon as I read it, I said to myself, oh, well, they need to look at themselves. As soon as I did that, I thought, oh, what is it in me that I'm missing? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't stop. It doesn't let you down. And I guess when you get to a place, when we get to that place, it would make sense. When we get to that 0 point in perpetuity, or sustain that, at least for long periods of time, if I know something, I don't need to talk about it. Like, it's kind of like that download we were talking about. Your heart's expanding. You want to go express that to a loved one, and you can't even say anything but in some miraculous way, your energy itself speaks, says it all, right? No words.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I love that you express that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, like as an example, things have gotten so intense. Not in a bad way, but like what you're talking about, the last 10 days or so. And we went to Sedona, that was 3.5 weeks. And so there was a lot of stuff culminated. And so last night we decided to start watching Outlander again for the 4th time, beginning at season 1. And so as an example, what you're talking about, I'm on one couch and she's on the other one, but I can't see her unless I turn and look at her. And every 20 minutes, I just stick my head around and I look at her and she looks at me. Now, this isn't about Todd Morgan. This is about what I was saying a minute ago. And we just look at each other. We don't say anything, because the energy says it all. And I think that's where we're headed to, all of us.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I want to bring in the point that there may be other people that are not experiencing this.
True.
And they're wondering what the hell we're talking about. But just for them to understand that they don't have to even worry about what it is that we're talking about, whether they understand it or not. Because ultimately, a few of us just holding that frequency is going to allow them to quantumly jump into that place. And they already have been, just not realizing it.
I agree. And people talk about starseeds and first waivers and, all that stuff. and you know, it really doesn't matter. Is there a group that came down here that maybe is a little bit more maturity in their soul lineage or whatever, advanced or whatever, and to kind of break the doors down and lead the charge? That's not my point. My point is that there is a pattern in our human experience, both intuitive and, you know, the normal rationale and cognitive of the human being, that when somebody breaks a door down, when somebody achieves something, then soon more follow.
Like the 4-minute mile, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that was done, and the next minute somebody else is doing something else, and it's faster and faster and faster. Same thing.
Yeah, and then it moves, it works. I don't know if it's the mile or the marathon, but I saw, and I used to follow sports for years. I mean, I was an avid statistics buff, but I saw like 6 months ago or a year ago, I think it was either the mile came down to somebody broke 3 minutes, or it was the marathon. I think it was the marathon. Somebody broke 2 hours, which was unheard of. You know, 20, 30, 40, it was unheard of. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, regardless, to get back to what you said earlier about some people aren't going through this or some people aren't conscious or whatever the case is, the fact is, and it's not about number of people either. Like if you got 8 billion people and let's say the tipping point would make sense to be 4 billion people, but we're talking about an energetic field and a quantum existence. So it could be 500 people that are energetically 51% of the energetic field on the earth. I mean, so it's a different math.
Yeah. I was listening to Wayne Dyer today, you know, in his new book with the real magic. And there was one thing that really stuck out for me in that, which I think would help people to connect to what we're saying if they're not connecting. And that is that he said, find a place in your brain where the magic is. Like just ask yourself, is there a place in my brain where the magic is? And have that as your sanctuary. And I thought that was pretty cool, like to find that. He said, I just go there and connect, and it's my secret place. Nobody knows about it. And I can go there. And in that place, I go beyond limitations of what the 5 senses could imagine that there are. And when I step into that, I go beyond that. I am all of that. And it's where I create all my miracles. And I thought, wow, like, you know, and then I did that for myself. And it was amazing. So just to be able to find that for yourself is connecting you to that space, because it takes you out of what you're experiencing in the 5 senses, like, you know, the news or this or that or whatever it is, into your own internal world where the magic then is. Yeah.
Secret place of the Most High, right?
Yes.
I wonder if that's what they were referring to. See, I remember when I first came off the street, one of the first things I wrote was this: the secret place of the Most High is like the eye of the hurricane, where God holds, molds, and unfolds you. I am soul.
I love that.
But I wonder if that's what they were talking about in the sacred text, because there is a place like that, and you describe it very well with what Dwyer was talking about. It is a place where you can, no matter what's going on, at least for me, in my experience, you can, not only can you create, you can power up. I could always power up, even when I was homeless. And that was the big thing in my head, was the secret place of the Most High. Mm-hmm. I don't know even where I got it. I think it must have got it out of a Bible quote.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now how would you, because I mean, you're over there in England and near London, and arguably that's been the power center of the world for thousands of years. You know, this small island in the middle of the, you know, I mean, there's something going on there. I know there's a lot of light workers there. I know there's a lot of people holding up the light. There'd have to be because of what the opposition energy appears to be. But what would you say to people who are in these areas such as Victoria or London, even parts of the States, New York City, where they're in the middle of this density, where there's this programming being rammed down their throats, almost like they're being challenged or bullied to, hey, just try me, just push back, you know? And then at the same time, how do they maintain their balance? Do they just not look at it? I mean, how do they do that?
I think to say to not look at it would maybe, it's like saying, don't look at the monkey. Don't think about a monkey. And then all you do is think about the monkey. It's just not going to work. When we do anything, it doesn't matter what it is, we have to be conscious of what we feel in the situation. Because if we're feeling frustrated, angry, any of that stuff, we've got to recognize that if we are all that is, then everything is we can connect to that internally. So if we feel frustration, we can sense where we feel it in the body. And as we sense, we can breathe through it. And we can go to our sacred space in our head or wherever your magic space is and ask the question, how do I act now? What is my next step? And just sit with that. Yeah. Because it's from that place, then we are not looking at it from a place of judging, which would be disconnection, what we said initially, but more of connection. And the other thing I wanted to add to that is that there is, I think we've kind of alluded to it slightly, but I just want to bring it up in a bigger way. And that is, I feel that the way that time was no longer is.
Yeah. True.
That where we used to have the past influencing the present into the future is no longer.
Yeah.
We are now what I would say where there is no time and space. Yes, we are living in time. I agree. There is that. Yeah. But when we go into this sacred space within ourselves, we're entering no time. And when we do act from that place, that's where we'll see the quantum shifts on the outside. Yeah. And, Todd, I have to appreciate you for what you do with all this, with the work that you're doing, all the interviews you do, because you're bringing awareness to this and to the masses. And that is so important that we can connect to this internal space. As we do, that's where we'll make the quantum shifts. Any shift we see on the outside is not going to come from the place if we're judging it, because it's going to be from the horizontal line of the past influencing the future. What we do now based on what was in the past is going to influence how the outcome is. No. If we go internal, we're going to go beyond time and space. And as we do, that's where the quantum shifts will happen.
Yeah. Man, you explained that perfectly. That totally resonates. It's weird because you see time. Well, let me say it this way. You see evidence of time in the physical, in the five senses, right? Like you see a clock or you have a calendar, but there is something different. I noticed it around June 1st. And I couldn't have explained it like that, but that's what it is. It's like there's almost like a projector stopped projecting. Like whatever was allowing that to perpetuate has stopped. And the only thing that's allowing it to perpetuate now is our own program. Yeah. But there's more and more evidence of, let's say timelessness. I mean, I'm not the only person that can't remember what month it is, or what week it is, or what day it is.
I'm glad I remembered our talk today.
Well, that's another thing. I'm looking at this going, okay, how am I going to schedule stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how am I going to do that? Is that going to exist? Are you going to get up every day, Todd, and come into the studio and turn on the computer and like when you go on the news feed or something and you just find something and it finds you and you go do I mean, how's that going to work? I don't know, but I like the way you explain that, because I've heard different people, and I felt it myself. It happened to Morgan last night. These moments of timelessness. Like, have you ever had like this year where you just, all of a sudden you go, okay, wait a minute, where am I? Who am I? How the hell did I get here? Like that type of thing. Have you had that happen?
Oh yeah, loads of times. I schedule certain things that I need to do with this one person, 3 times a week, just so that we can connect into this space. And most of the time she forgets, I forget. We kind of we don't really worry about that. And we just understand that we're in this timelessness. Yeah. And then we'll remember, like, if it was 9:30 in the morning, it will be like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I just remembered. Are you ready? Are you ready?
And I love people like that, because that happens to me, because I'm really bad. And they'll say something like, oh, it's okay. It'll happen when it needs to happen.
Yeah.
So either we'll meet or whatever, or it'll just be put off to whenever it'll happen. But
yeah.
And then the other thing about that too is, I've noticed in broadcasting 4,000 plus productions, video productions, not just this show, the effects of timelessness, as in spontaneity. Like, there's flow. Some people might call it flow. So like, I was in Sedona, we were in Sedona, and the night before we left, these collaborators, most of them really outstanding musicians, which I'm not. I write a few lyrics and I talk a little bit. So they had put up this production on this platform in a canyon in Sedona. It was beautiful as the sun's going down, right? And really professional. I'd never done anything like that before. I walked up on the stage. I was 10 minutes before they started, and they said, hey, here's the microphone. You start this thing out. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, do some conscious rap or something. So a guy starts playing a guitar. This girl over here starts doing this crazy ancient voice. Another guy's playing the keyboard and gongs and, singing bowls. So I just started rapping. But the point is, for 17 minutes, there was like this synergetic force of spontaneity, not rehearsed, that just was like incredible. The lighting, they had a color guy from Phoenix there that was a professional with sacred geometry, was like blowing up in the back with different colors. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. There's something about just the spontaneous that comes into our field on a much larger basis as this timelessness, along with this timelessness.
Because we're connected to creativity, which is what the universe is in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's where the perfection is. Yeah. I remember just listening, I can't remember, I think it was Alan Watts. He was talking about how the Tao, when they would shoot an arrow, if they had a thought before they shoot the arrow, they're disconnected. But if they don't think and just shoot spontaneously, they'll hit the mark.
Yeah.
Because they're just being in that.
That's very true.
But thinking would make it alter in some way before they shoot, so they'll miss the mark.
That's very true.
It's like, us stepping into our creativity, being in the moment by moment. That is where our creativity is. That's where the magic is. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's kind of like thinking about what you're going to say before you say something. We've all been there. Like you can, but if you don't think about anything and it's like boom, 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 boom. But if you think about, I'm going to say this, and as you start to say it, you even will mix your words, your mouth, kind of freeze up. The same can be said for, I love the thing about the bow and arrow, because anyone that's ever tried to shoot one, if you're thinking, it's not going to happen. You're just going to screw it up. Or shooting a free throw in basketball or anything where there's this space. My son and I used to talk about it years ago because I played basketball. He's a skateboarder. And I'd say, do you ever get to that place where you're like, there's no thought and you're just like flow, you know? And he's like, yeah, that's it. That's when I do my best stuff. But when I think about something, I end up landing on my ass, you know?
Yeah.
But that's a really good point. And it's kind of a, I don't want to say it's a difficult place. It's not been a familiar place in terms of sustainability for us in our past. But there is a certain level of surrender and relaxation that, you know, that seems to be the ingredients, and there is no thought there at all.
And I know personally, it's like when I'll be doing stuff, just random things around the house, just doing my chores, whatever, and suddenly a thought will just come and I just act on it. And it turns out it was what the other person needed in that moment. It was so synchronistic. It was just everything just lines up.
Yeah.
And if I was to, in that moment, even have a split-second thought, why did I have that thought? Am I supposed to, you know, and then you get in the way. And then it's like that impact you're going to have by just responding straight away goes away because you bring your mind to it.
True. It's like you're unobstructed. That's why, like, too, somebody was telling me a couple of days ago how they were washing the dishes and then it comes in, right? And then she was like, okay, I got to go write this down or post it or do a video. And by the time her monkey mind came in and started saying all that, it went away.
Yeah.
So if you go back to doing the dishes, this mundane act, and then it comes back, right? Yeah. It's weird. It's like trying to hold a fish in your hand, you know, a slippery fish. But I think we're doing really good. I really do.
Yeah. And I think as time goes along, we're going to be stepping into it more and more. I feel so. I
do too, and I think it's happening really quick. Like it's starting to happen very, very quick. Yeah. So, what was I going to tell you? Oh, so in terms of like what you're up to, what's going on, I know you do some stuff online, you know, and that type of thing. Is there anything that you've got coming up or that you're doing or anything you wanted to talk about or present?
Well, I've got a community that I work with that's doing this work, and I'm just literally, in fact, open doors to it today. So I let people in, and then we work this way. We do this work, and I was just running a challenge actually this week, just teaching these processes, and I mean, just the shifts that can happen, and it's everything that we've talked about today. Nobody has to join this. Nobody has to do any of it. You know, it's just, if you can just go away with what we've just discussed, even like that in itself is what you need. But if there's a support that anyone needs, then the community's there for that.
So where do they find it? I'm going to type it in.
I'd have to give you the link for that.
Oh, you have a link?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you could put the link on my page or send it to me and I'll put it on the different platforms.
Okay. All right.
What's it called?
It's called Own Your Genome, which is, I love that because genome is like gene is where the physical meets own. And so it's like where we're manifesting from that place where the infinite is.
Very, that's a very cool name. Own Your Genome. Very cool. I like that. Is that on your website?
It is, but I like I say, I have to.
Yeah. But I mean, and what is your website?
It's charansurdhar.com.
Okay, so it's yourname.com. Okay.
Yeah, and people can find YouTube videos if you want to search me on YouTube. I'm there. Instagram, I'm there quite a bit. My handle on there is at Dr. Charan Surdhar.
That's it. Did I spell that right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. What was Instagram? That's on your...
Yeah, at DR, and then my name is Charan Surdhar.
Okay, doctor, yeah. Okay. Very cool. It's good seeing you.
You
too. Good seeing you again. And I always enjoy talking to you. It's always lively. Yeah. I'll hit you up in maybe after the first of the year and see what's going on.
Thank you.
On the front line of the apocalypse in Great Britain. You take care. You look great.
Thank you. You too. All right.